like to call the Finance Committee to order. And first order of business is roll call.
Kowal? Here. Zach?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Tubb?
Here.
Fleming?
Here.
Crawford is absent with notice. Woodward's running a little late. Quarles is absent with notice. Middleton?
Here. We have a quorum. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, June 7th, 2018. Yeah. So, Tab is moving it. Fleming is supporting it. Any discussion on those June 7th minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next is the presentation of the agenda. I have a walk-on item number 14. It was taken up in personnel yesterday, and it'll be item number 14. Pardon?
Human resources, not personnel.
Okay, yes. Human relations, you're right. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, move the agenda as presented.
Okay.
And Tab is moving it, Kowal is supporting it. Any objection? If not, all those in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Thank you. Next is public comment. Shelley, you have something in public comment.
Yes, I'm going to be passing out to everyone a Corporation Council excuse me, opinion. Many of you have sat through a couple of years of me agonizing over not being able to receive reports from a certain department. So I don't think Tim is here. Is Tim here? No. I wanted to thank Tim, he's not here, but Tim Meyer, for stepping up to the plate after several years, and Joe Ellen as well, Mike here and Chris Ward, because this opinion will give us the information that we should have had a while back. So I'm going to pass some of these out. Pauline, do you want to give one to you and Dave?
We've talked about it.
You have one.
I got one.
Does everyone have one? I don't know if you.
No.
Yeah, I think so. And I want to especially thank them for stepping up to the plate and doing what we should, giving us the information that we should have. Hopefully we're going to get everything going forward and everything backward as well. I mean, from first quarter of 2016 as well. And thank the administration for doing this. Appreciate it.
Get a copy.
Why don't?
Oh, I'm sorry. Say what?
We haven't seen this, so if we could just get a copy too, so we know it's supposed to be coming. If it's, I'm assuming through quarterly reports.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Here. I'm sorry.
Okay. We should have a motion to receive and file this report. It's a memo from Tim Meyer dated July 9th, 2018.
I'll move.
Okay, Wade moved and Shelley supported a motion to receive and file this memo. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any? Yes.
The last committee of the week, want to introduce Angelina Torres, our new
Angela.
college intern.
Okay.
Still here from
Still
Monday.
there.
That's a good sign.
All right, tomorrow you better run.
Okay. Also, in public comment, I have a certificate of achievement. This recognition is presented to Pam Worthington on December 21st, 2017,
Pam.
in recognition of your educational achievement. And it's from Oakland County, from Brooks Patterson.
Oh, thank you very much.
Wow. What is it for?
There you go.
Okay, have we got anything else in public comment? If not, we will move on to the agenda, and we'll try to do this right. I've messed it up the last couple meetings. Fiscal year 2018, fiscal year 2019, fiscal year 2020 contingency report. Need a motion to receive and file contingency. Kowal and Woodward. So, okay, go ahead.
Okay, in page 1 or PDF page 12 of your contingency packet, there is an item for the sheriff's contract amendment number 1 with Parks and Recreation to add an additional deputy for the law enforcement services provided to parks. That amount using contingency is $46,069, leaving a balance of $4,225 for the remainder of 2018.
Okay, and that's coming up on today's agenda.
Agenda, yes,
Yep,
it's,
yep.
I believe, item number 2. Yes, item number 2.
Good.
And then on page 6, or PDF page 17 of the packet, there are 4 items that impact the use of miscellaneous capital outlay, leaving a balance of $400,556. These are routine replacements of furniture or technology needs, and includes the Board of Commissioners' networking equipment needed for the auditorium.
Oh, you mean that means the mics are going to work now?
Yes.
And the screens and everything else?
This is phase 1 of that project. Yeah, the video will be coming separately. This is the audio piece of that.
Well, because you need approval by specific resolution, because you wouldn't give me authority to sign up to 50,000. I told you. You
This is already only 9:59 till 9:59 only.
Okay, okay. Let's bring back some order.
Okay, moving on. On page 12 or PDF page 23.
Wait.
Yeah, on, if you go back to line 7,
Fairly short
page
time.
17 for just a moment, please. There's some library board purchasing network equipment. Did we approve that?
That's being approved. That's being approved. That can be approved administratively as allowed by from miscellaneous capital outlay. That project was approved administratively.
You know, the library board reports to the Board of Commissioners. So I would think that we would get some information about it other than just a line item.
That did go through. Chris was copied on that correspondence from Laura.
Okay. Thank you.
And then finally, on page 12 or PDF page 23 of your packet, there are 3 uses of equity. The first one being a couple of tri-party items in the amount of $37,335. There is a resolution for the Martin Luther King Jr. Task Force Freedom Ride for 2018 for the amount of $10,000. That's on today's agenda. And also we have utilization of assigned fund balance for the system replacement of our HR and financial system that is on today's agenda. We've been talking about this project for several years now, and it's coming before you today.
Okay. And that was for how much?
Well,
time?
there's 2 uses of assigned fund balance, one for $10 million, and then for technology needs of $3,369.
Yeah. Okay, and that's in the resolution. Those
Correct.
numbers,
It's
those
in the
numbers.
resolution.
Last time.
Yep, so, okay. Any other questions on the contingency report? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we'll go to communications. We'll take communications A, B, C, D, E, F, and G all in one. Long is moving it. Zach is supporting it.
Good.
Any questions on communications? Any of
Good.
those? Commissioner Taub.
I did, but I can't find the item. I just wanted to compliment
Gaia.
the health department is
Oh.
doing, but I can't find it. Oh, here we go. The public
see.
health accreditation, is there anyone to speak on public health accreditation?
Which letter is that?
It's, in,
Oh, you're an A then.
yeah, I'm on
Oh,
A.
okay.
Is Leanne here? Leanne, Yeah, do you want to tell us about it? I think it's terrific.
Yes, so that's our national accreditation, so that's separate than our every 3-year state accreditation, so.
Have we ever done this before?
We have not, it's actually fairly
Wow.
new, it's only about 3 years old, I think, 4 years maybe. Time flies. Oh, maybe it does.
Okay.
So, yes, the application will be submitted after approval, and it's about a year process that we go through
Wow.
to gather necessary documentation that meets about 12 standards that we have to meet, and then there'll be a national board that'll come in, review for about a week and a half, and then we'll be accredited, hopefully, but we will, so, yeah.
That is terrific. Now, how often do you have to renew that?
It's every 5 years we would go back through reaccreditation.
Okay, thank you. I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. I know
Don't
we'll
sit
pass
down
with
yet.
flying colors.
Eileen's got a question, and I imagine it's on the same issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I just wanted to say nice job on the news yesterday representing the health department for that restaurant in Novi. Good job, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on communication? Yes, Commissioner
Yeah, I
Scott.
have one on, for the sheriff, if McCabe is here. This is a neat thing that you're getting.
Yes.
Do you want to explain it?
It just allows us to crack open Apple phones, which had been very difficult and almost impossible prior to this. And it's only done with a search warrant, but our computer crimes unit will be using it, assisting other agencies and our own agency.
Okay, so the other people in our other policing
It's a
agencies.
support service we provide to everybody.
Okay,
Okay,
but they have to have a warrant
We get
too.
a search warrant, that's correct.
Okay.
okay.
Yes, Commissioner Zach.
So I know that Apple was trying to fight the privacy of this thing.
They actually
but
worked with us on it. Apple worked with the company.
So for law enforcement
Yes.
purposes,
That's
they'll
correct.
allow it. Okay, great.
Okay,
I
any
have one
other?
more quick question. Can you also use it to, maybe to find someone who's lost type thing, if they've got their phone with them and they, are
That software
missing?
doesn't do that, no.
It doesn't?
That's where you ping through the towers or.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions on communications? If not, all those in favor of receive and file the communications signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next is the consent agenda, and we have, I think, 3 things on the consent agenda. No, 2 things. Where?
There's 3 things.
Oh, one consent agenda has A, B, and
There's 3 things, it's just.
A, B, and C. So, Commissioner Zach is moving it. Todd is supporting it. Is there questions on the consent agenda? Okay, if not, roll call on consent.
Zach,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Crawford. I was absent. Woodward,
Yes.
Cowell,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next, we'll go to the regular agenda, and it's the Sheriff's Office 2018 Law Enforcement Distribution Program Acceptance. Need a motion. Wade and Cowell.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You may notice that Gay isn't sitting over here anymore. She's sitting over here. She's our new fiscal officer for the Sheriff's Office since Dale retired.
Yeah, and Gail has promised not to stand behind me.
I already warned her. You know how she had a tendency to do that.
So, okay, go ahead.
This is our Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards biannual training distribution. We get about a little less than maybe $100,000 a year to help train our certified deputies, our licensed deputies. It's not much, but it's amounts to maybe $150 per officer per year statewide.
It's
It's
nothing.
based on full-time equivalents, but I did approach a state rep from Macomb County who's going to assist us potentially in upping the formula so that all the agencies will get more money based upon something that he's working on. It's John Churkin from Roseville is the one working on it.
Okay, any questions? If not, call the roll on item number 3.
Lund,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Cowell. Yes. Zach,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next is Sheriff's Office contract amendment number 1, law enforcement services for Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission, 2017-2018. Need a motion. Taub is moving it, Fleming is supporting it.
This is add 1 full-time deputy into the Parks unit. Currently have a lieutenant, 2 full-time deputies. This would be the 3rd, and a plethora of part-time deputies. Been pretty busy this summer in the parks. The parks approached us, and in conjunction with the commission, they voted unanimously to request to add this position, which would take effect after the next board meeting that you have.
And that was considered in the contingency report. Any other discussion? If not, call the roll on item number 4.
Taub,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Cowell. Yes. Zach,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next is item number 5, Sheriff's Office 2018 High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Grant Acceptance. Wade is passing it and Cowell's supporting it. So.
This is a grant that we received from HIDA, which is a entity that exists in Michigan. There's 28 HIDAs, I believe, nationwide. I'm a voting member on the board, have been for many years. This goes to our narcotics enforcement team to offset overtime and communication cell phones. And pleased to report that of all the initiatives statewide that receive funding, NET, Oakland County Sheriff's Office, NET is the #1 performer at HIDA. And we get the most money, if you can believe that.
That's unusual.
It's because it's not under the state.
It's about time. Good.
Okay, Commissioner Taub has a question.
The grant started in January. What would happen if they decided not to fund it? I mean, that's just a hypothetical question, but it's not, why are they finally getting around
The money comes from the federal government, so they're always
Oh.
about a year behind, quite frankly. And that's
Yeah.
just the way, HIDA's
It's
been
wonderful.
in existence for over 20 years now.
I know,
So-
but, it's sloppy. Not on your part, on their part.
No, it's the federal government.
Okay.
And it doesn't involve all the communities.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
only those that participate in NET.
Yeah.
And the list is on there.
Troy.
Yeah, I went through the
There's
list.
15 municipalities, plus they're not listed because they don't get any of it, but they're part of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA.
Okay. So, any other questions on item number 5? If not, call the roll.
Fleming,
Yes.
Woodward, Cowell. Yes. Zach,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Item number 6, Department of Health and Human Services, Health Division, adjustment to the Health Division fee schedule and position change. Need a motion. Wade and Zach. Go ahead.
Good morning. This proposal recommends a reorganization and fee schedule changes. So due to some new demands, emerging issues, which you've heard about Legionella, maybe PFAS, vapor intrusion, it really prompted us to take a comprehensive look at the health division just to see where we, could use some additional help or where we were maybe lagging with, responding to services as people needed. So as we looked at that, we also saw that our traditional services were being increased, and so we really did see a need for some additional staffing. In addition, as we looked at this, we saw that we really needed to look at and review our fees, because they really hadn't been a comprehensively look across of all of our fees, really not been looked at since 2008. In 2011, we added a few new fees, but we really hadn't looked at adding or updating fees since 2008. So all the revenue from these increased fees will cover these positions.
Okay. And I see not available, like Livingston County quite often. Are they not charging a fee, or it's just that we weren't able to obtain the data for those fees?
Well,
And not only Livingston, but Macomb County has quite a few that are not NAs.
There's a number of services that Oakland County has that other counties don't. For instance, one of them in there will be food service manager certification, any of the fees associated with that. Many counties don't participate in that program. Oakland County was the first to require through our sanitary code food service manager certification, and the state duplicated our program. But many of them rely on the National Restaurant Association classes that are online. We believe it's important to have classes in-house and certify in-house because that's an opportunity for restaurants and their personnel to interact with our sanitarians and learn about the full inspection process. And our restaurants greatly appreciate that. But that's just one example. There's many more like that. Wayne County doesn't even have a well and septic program, so many of those fees are missing. And then in other cases, there isn't, they may have a different fee. Ours is a different kind of service, so we didn't have anything in that category that equated to something equivalent in another
Okay.
county.
Okay. Commissioner Top.
You have a bunch of new fees, and my question to you is, how do county employees, do they pay these fees as well, or does it is it covered in their insurance or what?
New fees for,
Whole bunches of blood level tests, blood screenings. These here. Chlamydia.
On page
Lab
5
test.
of
oh
Yeah.
yeah, these are new.
Yes, these are new. Most of them that you're seeing on Schedule B are like an STD test. Those are all those
Right.
blood tests. But vaccines are covered through, there's a county program where employees that are on our county insurance and then their family members they are actually paid for by a special fee in fiscal.
These are
Right,
blood tests that enable us to bill.
Yeah.
We have never been able to accomplish this before, but now we are able to do so, so we have to establish a fee in order to bill.
Okay, so can you bill Blue Cross or Aetna or
Yeah.
anybody? So basically, once you have the fee, a lot of it will be taken care of by somebody's
Right.
Correct.
insurance.
Right,
Okay.
and of course, as in all of our fees, if someone can't afford it, we have a sliding fee scale.
Okay,
Good.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The only fee that I ever encounter is that temporary food service fee. We do.
There's a lot of service for that fee.
Yeah, there is, I know, and it's, timing is important. It's a tough one for you to probably administer because our Optimist Club gets a temporary food permit for different events, and
Correct.
so that one I was familiar with what the price was.
And it does have a different fee depending on how soon we get notice, because we begin work on that right away. It's not a case of just showing up on site. We start to work with the people early on who will be preparing the food, and we go over the menus with them. We make sure they're in a place where they're preparing properly. Sometimes we even go out to where they're preparing ahead of time. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes for those fees.
I appreciate that. So, okay, yeah, Commissioner Top.
Do we have a fee for food trucks? Do we inspect
do.
them? Okay,
Mobile food trucks.
yeah.
Hot
So,
trucks, cold trucks.
so if somebody has a food truck in Livingston County and they want to come into Oakland County, what?
So there's two different types of trucks. Well, there's several types of trucks, but one's called an STFU. It's licensed in any county in the state of Michigan. They're allowed to travel anywhere in the state and set up shop. They have to give us 2 weeks' notice before they arrive in our county so that we have the opportunity to go inspect them should we choose to. And they're required to get a second inspection during the course of the year. The initial inspection by the licensing county and the second inspection can be held anywhere. If they choose to have that inspection in Oakland County, they need to let us know, and we will do that inspection for them and send the paperwork back to the licensing jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Wade, did you have something?
Yes, I did. We covered this in general government, Kathy, but these fees seem reasonable compared to other counties. But in the discussion in general government, you pointed out, this does not cover our cost.
No.
Is that right?
Doesn't cover
Do we know
cost.
if this covers half our cost or whatever? But
No,
you're saying
no.
all these fees, there's so many services, you're talking about the temporary food vendor license, because that's education, and you're not out there trying to keep people from getting a permit. You want to educate them and make sure they're doing things right. But this is just a fraction of the actual cost we're incurring. This is not trying to This is not a profit center on any of these
Many of
fees.
these fees are around
30% of our services, yep.
Okay, I think that's important for the public to understand. We're not trying to make this a profit center. This is just making a dent in the true cost of these services. Okay?
Commissioner Woodward.
Yeah, and my question was around that similar line,
Mhm.
especially on the reinspection fees of food establishments, obviously one every 6 months inspection, but if there's something wrong, minor or serious, we come back. A $65 reinspection fee seems just really low for
It is.
having to come back. So why is it 65 and not 100? Or closer to recovering the cost if we have to come back? And the first one covered, and we pay for
The first follow-up, yes, is covered in their license, their annual license.
Right, so
That's
this is like,
correct.
so basically if you screw up twice, I mean, if you don't rise to the level of health twice, then, I mean, this gets instituted. I mean, I think that should be higher. And what's the rationale for not being higher?
trying to keep it a percentage of the cost across the board. Those that are true abusers, they will rack up several likely. So the other thing is that we know from experience, from talking to other counties, that we have very high fees. There's also, it can be interpreted that if you're coming back again, you're coming back simply for a fee. And that is something that is absolutely not true. It's trying to be a deterrent without being, appearing that you're just trying to generate some funding.
Right, no, and I understand that, which is why the follow-up is free.
Yeah.
But if I have to come back again, I mean, and I guess I am more interested, since my eyes have been open to the committee that sees the most egregious behavior. And the total fees racked up, and you're right, I think you rack them up, but it's nowhere near the cost. I mean, it seems to me that the repeat offenders are racking up a disproportional amount of cost.
We do have additional fees in there for that offender that ends up at revocation.
So if you're on this, well, I think it's at the very bottom, it's under the Sanitary Code Appeal Board. So there are some fees, a new fee there that we've added for the pre-hearing fee.
So that repeat offender will be called in for a pre-hearing conference, and now there's, for the first time, there's a fee associated with that. And also with revocation, I believe. There's something about reapplication.
Oh, reapplication.
So that sanitary code.
Oh, I don't think they have them on or anything, so.
It is part of our, it's a enforcement policy that has to be, also be approved by MNARD, and these fees are something the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. So they have approved in the past the way we've approached our enforcement fees, because once again, sometimes they are so punitive that it just seems like some counties are building funding source based on reinspection.
I understand, and I'm also not, I know we're not, and I guess, I mean, I am, either, I guess I'm open, would be, like the consideration of, sliding like after a certain amount of, like, maybe 65 for the third one, but I have to come back a fourth and a fifth. I mean, the amount, yeah. It would
Well,
be helpful
I have to tell you, we originally wrote that this way, but then when we looked at the cost of rewriting our programming for e-health,
It wasn't cost effective.
Oh, okay, well, all right, okay. Well, then maybe it needs to go up.
No.
Well, so what is the cost of a general inspection? Do we have it broken down to a per unit cost?
depends on the time you're there.
Yeah, you can. Cost of service is about And it really does based on the complexity of the restaurant as well.
Yeah, the seating number, basically you start with the seating chart.
Yeah, it varies depending on what the issues are.
But I mean, just like, obviously reinspection depends because of based on the violations, but I mean, if you do so many inspections, it's like 4,000 every 6 months, something like that. Do we have just a general cost of what that is? I would imagine over 4,000 would be like the general unit cost based on, you get so many sanitarians.
Yeah, I think that if we have talked about this in the past and we've reviewed this in the past, if a sanitarian were going out and checking one quick thing, it's probably a minimum of $250.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, to me, they can create the argument of going on the third, fourth, fifth reinspection, the 75 to me seems too low.
So as I said, we had originally written it that way, that it would increase with each one. We also are rewriting, we'll be getting a new electronic food inspection system that will be written. It would be easier for us to address that at that time when we're starting over with a new system rather than have to rewrite in the system we're in now and then do it again. It is something we can address in the new food inspection system and come back again with an increasing fee at that time.
All right, I'm going to move away from food inspection. I'm going to come back to water. Something I'm hyper tuned to. So I know, and we brought in new equipment to be able to help do this in-house.
Yeah.
That I thought was going to be able to save us money to be able to do this, and yet we're increasing fees to test people's water. So what's the...
Which fees are we talking about?
I mean, specifically, like residential, like lead water,
so those are new fees because we've never done that before. We previously have sent it out to the state. It's providing a couple of dollars in savings to the state fees, but the primary advantage to the county resident is the turnaround time, which now they have to wait considerable time to get their testing back. And it also allows us to have the opportunity when it comes to us directly and we're analyzing it in-house, we have the result in-house and we can work closely with whoever is having that testing done in terms of troubleshooting. There's a lot of service that will go along with that. Should it come back high, we're going to spend a great deal of time with them to help them find the source and correct the problem. So it's not just a case of a simple water test, then it comes back to environmental health, and that's some of the positions that we're asking for today, to create a specialized team that will really work with the community and for some of these results that we're finding from our analyzer. In addition to things like Legionnaires and vapor intrusion, they will become very skilled in water and really assist them in finding the source of their problem.
I would like, I think that's all great, and I'm 100% support of the position to be able to help do this. I am also curious and sensitive to low-income residents in other areas, and so I would think like in tandem with this, a policy, at least since this is new, we're able to offer this now, and hopefully people will take advantage of it. That some period of time to waive that fee, particularly for areas, and I think we figure out how to define the areas, whether it's CDBG eligible community, low, moderate income areas, to get as many people to take advantage of that testing upfront, and then maybe build up what I.
This is a policy that we have right now. First of all, sliding fee scale, so that no one will walk away without a service if they can't afford it. We guarantee that. The other thing is if it has anything to do with a lead poisoned child, we will consider that an investigation, and there will be no fee associated with anything that's considered an investigation. That's always been our policy. The other thing is if if it's like a neighborhood that we're concerned about because we're seeing something, we would call that an investigation and provide our services for free as well. There's many ways we can work with people to make sure that they don't walk away without a service that they need.
And that policy, I assume is written, we have an awesome policy department that does this thing, but is there a way to get that in tandem with seeing that in context?
Has it been written in this resolution about investigation? I thought it was in.
I don't remember.
In the resolution?
Been a while since I've looked at this.
We can certainly get that.
But I mean, I want to make certain that, I want that to be paid for those people almost unilaterally in the short term.
It is in a further be resolved.
Oh, okay.
This language doesn't say specifically in part two of the investigation.
In general.
Okay.
So in general.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Reduce or
It
waive
does say
fees
this.
for personal
Unless we
health
took it off.
services and assure the most needed personal health services are not denied for these services.
I thought it was in.
Right there.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah, it is.
Second to the
right.
last,
Yeah.
further be resolved.
Yep.
Okay. I have Tom on my list.
Okay, and the fourth, whereas, there's a typographical error. It should read, instead of like Medicaid, such as Medicaid. I know that's a typo.
Oh, such as.
Such as.
Okay, can we just take that as a typo and?
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay. So that'll be corrected by the time it comes to the board. Any other questions? If not, call the roll on item number 6.
Woodward?
No, because I want to go back to
Okay.
restaurant inspection.
Coel?
Yes. Did you say no? Yes, okay.
Zach? Zach?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yes. Long?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Did you say pass or?
Oh.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, okay. Middleton?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item number 7. Department of Health and Human Services, Children's Village Division, interlock agreement with Oakland Schools for the provision of educational planning services. Need a motion. Taub is moving it. Fleming is supporting it. So go ahead.
Good morning. This is this agreement between Oakland Schools and Children's Village is a new initiative, and the intention is for them to provide educational transition services for youth returning back to their community school from a Children's Village treatment program. This funding will provide for 1 full-time educational planner and a part-time team leader. The annual not-to-exceed amount is $87,332, and that's for the personnel costs. And the agreement period is for this next coming school year. Children's Village treatment staff and our reentry staff provide transition services for all kids that are leaving from treatment programs. This is an additional initiative to help with those kids whose primary difficulties prior to coming to Children's Village were in school, and there's just a greater need for some more intensive work.
Okay. Commissioner Todd.
And I'm really pleased to say that in addition to what you're doing, I've noticed that you're also working with youth assistants so that the social workers in the schools have a heads up and can work with those kids. It's a nice blend, and thank you very much.
Any other questions on item number 7? If not, call the roll.
Coel? Yes. Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yeah.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next is Department of Health and Human Services, Children's Village, Waterford School District interlock agreement, July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2023. Need a motion. Long and Top. Go ahead.
This agreement will allow Waterford School District to continue providing educational services to all the youth placed at Children's Village. The cost to the county for the educational services for this upcoming year is $244,000, $244,470. And for the following school year, it's $250,390. Both of those amounts are reimbursable at 50% from the Child Care Fund. Waterford School District, because Children's Village falls within the Waterford School District, they're the ones that have historically provided our educational services.
Yeah. And they get the state grant.
They do. They get state funding, correct.
And I think it's 1.5 per student out at Children's Village. The count is 1.5 per, because of special ed.
Oh, right, yes.
Yep. So.
And we also get additional funding, or the school district does, for court-placed reimbursement, which is nice.
Okay. Any questions? If not, call the roll on item number 8.
Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Cowell? Yes. Middleton?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item number 9, facilities management, facilities planning and engineering, Children's Village, A, building, and B, cottage window replacement project to be, and it was reviewed by planning and building. I need a motion. Todd is moving it. Zach is supporting it. So, go ahead.
All right, good morning. Ed Joss, Manager of Facilities Planning and Engineering. That's our first one here, windows. All right. As part of our annual CIP program, we have a line item in there for window replacements. This year, we've identified the need to replace the windows at Children's Village, at A building and B cottage. The windows up there are original to the building and are in need of replacement. Jody is here to testify to that. We'll be replacing about 80 buildings. We also have to address some asbestos issues with the material surrounding the windows. This did go out for a competitive bid. The lowest responsible bidder was Rochester Hills Glazing. The estimated project, the cost estimate for the project is approximately $275,000. Again, the funding is coming from the CIP, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Yes, wait, go ahead.
Well, windows over 50 years old, we know they need replacing. But we only got 2 bids. Is that normal? We just go out and get just a couple of bids?
Well, we don't, necessarily solicit particular contractors. We put together the information on what we need. We send it to purchasing. Purchasing puts it out on the mitten. And yeah, it just so happened that this time only 2 responded to it. We have found with a lot of our projects recently that the number of bidders might be down a little bit just because the market for building right now is so through the roof, and as you know, there's a shortage of labor, and so everybody's busier than all get out, and full plate. So
that's what I really expected your answer to be. You put it out for bid. It's really hard to find people. I mean, even personally trying to get jobs done. So I know you'd like to get more bids than that, but at least we got 2. We got the same situation on the next issue, the paving, but it's really hard to find people to do this work,
I have Woodward and Long.
My first question was along the lines of 50 years windows. I don't know, are they single pane? I mean, they're probably more commercial, so they might be double pane, but they might be single pane. And so the energy loss costs that we've been enduring the last 50 years is probably tremendous. My question is broadly across all of our windows that, and I know you guys are always looking at it, but how many 50-year-old windows do I still have on this campus?
can't tell you that offhand. I can tell you, again, that, It's part of,
30
as part of the,
A
you know,
lot.
as part of the CIP, again, we have a line item in there, we put funding aside, whatever we can make available for every year. And we do go through and evaluate all of our buildings, all of our windows, based on the age of them, based on the energy loss. We prioritize them, right? So, you know, we do have some older buildings, we do have some older windows. The idea is that the ones that we still have are not quite as old as these ones that we're replacing, and we'll get to those ones next.
Can I say something too? I mean, the last old building, I believe, was the North Office building,
Correct.
right, where we did some major window replacements. And there was a lot of debate in the administration about, do we replace those, because that's an old building, or, and with the asbestos in those buildings, there's not a lot you can do to remodel them in order to, you know, bring them up to ADA compliance and that type of thing. We ended up doing that because obviously several years ago, there was a lot of lack of funding and we needed the space. But going forward, those are the kinds of debates that we have in administration. We have to look at the overall plan. So you'll hear next Thursday, when we present the budget, that there's several large projects that are prioritized. We'll probably have to do some debt issuance for things like in the courthouse and other buildings for ADA improvements and ingress and egress. So those are the priorities right now. We do have a routine window replacement project in the CIP every year, as Ed was talking about, so we prioritize the individual windows. But we also have to take into consideration the age of those buildings. So what is it, that one annex over there? That's a really old building. We do record storage over there. But at some point, you know, that's why we wanted to do that domino plan at some point, because I think we need a much broader project of a sequencing of which buildings maybe are just not worth putting money into anymore, and maybe we raise those and build new buildings. And so those are the kinds of thought processes that I wanted to share with you that we discuss over there.
No, and I fully appreciate that. I also know that interest rates are only going to be going up. So
Hmm.
we're going to borrow, and I'm going to own these buildings for.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, if it's likely we're not going to, I don't want to put any money into it. But if there's a human in it right now, and we are likely to keep it for some period of time, it would seem to me that we might as well borrow to replace all of them. Because, I mean, we're losing significant amount of energy on old.
We will be bringing a large borrowing to you, $30 million, but then realize.
I would have no problem going to $35 million.
Well,
It replaces all the windows and saves me energy over the next
It's
few
also
years.
about having internal staff resources to manage all those projects.
Agreed.
And having budget available within your annual ongoing operating to pay the debt service, because when you borrow, you still have to pay the debt service on that within your annual ongoing budget. So it's a balancing act.
I completely agree. I
Yeah.
guess my request is to
Yeah.
push to get as much as you possibly can, because again, it's gonna be more expensive to borrow in the future, and if we,
And it's expensive now for trades, so we need to bring trades back. Yeah, we hear what you're saying. Those are the same kinds of conversations we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then the other, I mean, the question is more just the technical, and I love when we put out the bid report, and sometimes in this case, I can probably figure at least 50% of them, underneath, and I think in the past I've seen like the city where these firms are located, and Rochester Hills, I can make assumptions,
Right.
Rochester Hills,
Yes.
but I have Berkeley Appliance Repair in my city.
Yeah.
And, so, I'm assuming that there's a way to, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'm seeing that, because
We'll make sure that's in there. I think it was left out because of the name. In the next one, we get to the parking lot replacement, you'll see it is in the resolution that they're in there, so.
I would rather use a firm in our county that pays our county taxes whenever possible.
Okay. Commissioner Long and then Commissioner Tom.
One quick thing, I realize this total of the 275 includes labor and the other things around the windows and stuff that you were talking, but on average, how much are these windows? And how many are we replacing? 80, did you say?
It's close to 80, yeah. I have not done the math to break it down, but yeah, you can see from the project estimate there are, you know, the windows themselves, 228,000 for, I think the exact number is 78 windows.
Okay.
So, you know, we could do that math there, but yes, there are other costs associated.
Are these big windows? Big window, and then I'm sure you're doing like commercial.
And they are
I mean, they have to be
commercial grade.
commercial grade. And, I mean, I realize windows are expensive, but that's really expensive. But I you know, if they're big, I get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that does include, right, the labor for.
And that's probably a big cost.
For removing and disposing
Oh, okay.
the existing windows.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're
Right.
And then if you have asbestos,
and
like
then the
that
labor and the
probably is more.
installation, correct. Yeah, we
Okay.
also have some asbestos and
All right.
other contaminants that we need to control. So the costs do get up there in a
Okay.
hurry.
Okay.
Thanks.
Commissioner Tom.
I just wanted to say that we do have a new window in this room, because a deer came through.
Right. That one was not planned.
Okay, any other discussion on item number 9? If not, call the roll on item number 9.
Long,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Coal. Yes. Zach,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes, motion carried. Next is item number 10, management, facilities management, facilities planning and engineering, 2018 parking lot repaving project. Need a motion. Todd is moving it, Colwell is supporting it. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Also in the 2018 CIP is a line item for parking lot paving replacement. It's a line item that we have in there every year. Same situation where we are constantly monitoring our paving and prioritizing them. For this year, we've identified the parking lots at Materials Management, which is almost 30 years old since it was last replaced. Also, the Northwest Courthouse lot, which is almost 20 years old, and the Medical Examiner's lot, which is also almost 20 years old. This did go out for competitive bid. The lowest responsible bidder was Asphalt Specialists of Pontiac, Michigan. The total project is estimated at just over 1.1 million. Again, the funding is coming out of the CIP. In your packet, there's a map that shows the location of these lots, the breakdown of the project estimate, and the bid summary. So, any questions?
Yeah, Commissioner Todd has one, and then Fleming.
When are we gonna do the south entrance to the complex?
The road
Yeah.
itself, that I would have to get back to you on. We do, just like with the parking lots, we look at the roads, we prioritize them. I know we have that in the plan somewhere, but I can send an email to Chris if that's okay when we plan
That'd be
on
fine.
replacing.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner Fleming.
Yeah, this is more of a question for purchasing along the lines of the same last question I had on the windows. When you get in this competitive bidding situation and, you know, everybody's busy, you know, you have a limited number of people. And what I've seen happen in the past is these companies talk to each other when there's a bid, and there's no surprise to you in purchasing over there, Scott. They actually talk to each other, and they say, okay, I'll give you this one, you take this one. Okay, that really happens. Is there anything in our contracts that warns our vendors about doing that, for cooperating and setting bids? Because these prices, even on the windows, are really high, really high. And I'm thinking, just look at the cost per window. Don't know it, but it's pretty high. And I don't know a lot about asphalt cost. You guys know a lot about that, but the question is, because of the nature of these things and these companies, I don't know where they're located, but I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I just run the numbers here on each facility. And is there anything in our contract that would warn vendors about cooperatively bidding? Have you ever seen evidence of that?
We haven't seen evidence of it. We have a lot of statements about when we follow local laws and ordinances and things like that, and we have stuff stated. Right now we know that we go out and we try to knock on a lot of the doors on these type of companies, and we're finding out all the smaller companies are being subcontracted by these larger firms. They're just tied up like the asphalt guys.
Yep.
They're doing road work
Yeah.
that they probably shouldn't be doing. Nobody wants a small bit.
Right, it's tough.
That's the hardest part.
And I'd be happy to add to that if I can,
Okay,
please.
sure.
So, right, so it's a concern, right, that we have, you know, we're constantly monitoring those bids. So, even in a situation where we might only have 2 bidders, we're taking a look at the 2 costs, right? So looking at the parking lot replacement, we look at a few things. One, how close are they to each other?
Right.
And in this instance, they're in the same ballpark, so there's no red flag there. Also, you know, ahead of time, you know, I have a staff of architects, engineers, folks with the knowledge and background, and they, you know, they have a pretty good idea as to what these should cost, and that's what we use to set the money aside in the CIP. So when we go out for bid, if the prices come back much higher,
Sure.
we've got a couple of issues. One, you know, what's wrong here? Why are the bids high? You know,
Right.
we have to be concerned about what you're talking about. And 2, well, now we might not even have the money to be able to do the project because we didn't set that much aside. So in both of these cases here, what we had estimated is very close. The bids are in the same ballpark. There's really no red flag there.
Good.
And as far as I've always known, if these bids do come back, you know, much higher than we think that they should be, or there's a big disparity between them, we're not under any obligation to accept any of them. We can walk away and rebid or you know, meet with the bidders and find out, you know, why the prices are higher, why there's such a big gap.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up, because what sort of flagged me, and I don't know, but the Materials Management Center, they were within 5% of each other. On the courthouse northwest lot, which is a large job, they were within 1.2% of each other. And on the smallest project, the medical examiner's facility, they were 20% different. So when you got a huge project, they're just right there. But on the small one, there was a difference. And there's probably a logical reason for that, but
Yeah.
just red flags. Okay. But you're doing everything you can do. I understand that.
Yeah, so-
Yeah. Because what you're doing, you're estimating the cost, and that's good that you're doing that. And you've got experts that do that, so you know if the price is reasonable. But you know, in these times here, it's just hard to find anybody to do work, and I would expect that you're going to pay a premium in this environment anyway. So.
Right, and to comment on what you had said, so, you know, once we receive the bids, you know, we don't just award based on the bid response. We sit down with the contractors and go through their bids and find out, you know, maybe why this one was lower, right? Because, you know, as you had mentioned, the medical examiner's one was much lower. And so, you know, the overall price was lower. And
Sure.
we didn't simply select asphalt specialists because they had a lower price. We sat down with them and did a page turning on all the plans, all the specs, and their bid numbers because, yeah, it's nice to see that their number's lower, but it's also a little bit of a concern of ours. You know, why is that
Did you
number
miss
so-
something?
Exactly. So
That's what I
so
said.
we go through it and make sure that everything is covered, you know, before we commit to, you know, bringing it here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good job.
Any other questions? If not, call the roll on item number 10.
Cobb?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried. Next is item number 11, Board of Commissioners funding support for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Task Force Incorporated Freedom Ride 2018. Need a motion. Woodward is moving it, Top is supporting it, and Woodward is going to speak on it.
Yes, and Commissioner Quarles is, actually was the person who brought it to our attention.
Thanks.
Actually, this would be our second year of supporting what I think is a really fascinating project for Oakland County students and diverse students across the county, across multiple school districts. This is in support of the 2018 Freedom Ride. She's unable to be here today, which is the only reason why I'm speaking on this. With this support, roughly like 40 students from Oakland County would be able to take a journey that's 8 additional students than above and beyond last year, to really go to these historical sites all over the country, to Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., where major events that should transform the civil rights movement took place. And the Oakland County middle school and high school students will visit the civil rights sites in these areas. It's going to be happening fairly soon, August 3rd through August 10th. They go up on a bus. It's old school going. The Freedom Ride replicates some of the experiences, and I would imagine similar to past years, we'll report on the events and hopefully photos and other things. It's a great opportunity, and hope we can support.
Okay, Commissioner Top.
Yes, so we are supporting nicely 5 more kids, but how do these kids get picked? Just asking.
8 more kids.
8 more kids, okay.
So the
Sorry,
task,
8.
so the Martin Luther King Junior Task Force is the organizer of the event. Has been working with Oakland Schools. Oakland Schools providing the connection to superintendents. Started this process obviously last year, and so working through those individual school districts and making having applications available. I don't know if your staff has additional information on how.
They do have to make an application and submit it, and then the task force makes the selection for the first representation of Oakland County Schools.
Cool, okay.
So anyone can go. I mean, and through Oakland County Schools, they have an opportunity to apply.
I understand that all the superintendents were able to apply to the opportunity and try to fan it out. And I think it's something that, with each year, that we can actually do even more to make sure that we get all school districts. In a perfect world, we get multiple students from every school district. August is, obviously a tough time. We're in the middle of summer. This trip doesn't lend itself conducively to doing during the school year, which would be easier to probably find kids because it's a 7 days. I guess started the football season
Started already 2 months ago.
But I know that the task force would be very open to figure out any way for maybe for us individually to lean in to be advocates to our local community school districts for future growth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anything else on item number 11? If not, call the roll.
Fleming,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Zab,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Tub,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes. Motion carried. Next is item number 12.
Fair education.
Board of Commissioners payment of the 2019 county dues for the Michigan Association of Counties. And Commissioner Taub would like to move that resolution. Commissioner Fleming will support it. Okay, before us then, you want to talk a little bit about it, or?
Well, I am a great believer, as is this county, in not only servicing and offering the very best services to our constituents, but I think we also, as is evidenced by some of the stuff we're doing in IT, which I thank you all about, have been able to help other counties with our G2G computing and other things that we do. And this is another way that we are able to participate and offer the ability to other counties to do stuff, quote unquote. I know that Alger County, just with some help from some of our folks and one other county, Alger County's got all of 9,800 people in it. They were able to build a jail, believe it or not, and they're renting space out to other communities, other counties up in the upper that, can't afford a jail. And so that kind of information that we get back and forth is incredible. The fact that we have numbers when we not only have our own lobbyists, but we have MAC to lobby for us as well. And that's pretty powerful. I currently have the best job at MAC. I'm past president. Being past president of anything is lovely. But I just wanted to report to you that we had a pretty intensive year when I served. We had a new director appointed, The over 100-year-old building needed about $3 or $4 million worth of work. Sadly enough, staff had snow coming in from the windows. This is true. So the decision was made that we would sell the building, which we did, and move. Yeah, there are the windows, Dave, and move downtown to downtown Lansing into a new office building. When I asked for a business plan, there was none, so we had to do that. When I asked for the minutes, they were written, about 40 years ago. I mean, the bylaws, rather, were written about 40 years ago, 34, with no, so those all had to be revised. We're just in the process of finishing that up. So it was a very eventful year, but MAC is now on the right course. It was sad that the people who lobby for us and who work with the legislators had, sadly enough, to drive every time there was an issue with the Capitol, try to find a parking space and get in there. Right now they can walk there, half a block away. Wade, it's a nice office. It's a 21st century office, and to pay for a lot of the rent of that particular floor, they have other people renting from them, other small organizations renting offices from them, and we have expanded. We have other groups of folks that we do planning for and meetings for. So I'm urging you all to continue our participation in MAC.
And we have 2 members on the board, you and Hugh.
Yeah. Hugh and I are on the board. Tom is a chairman of one of the committees.
Oh, transportation.
Transportation. Who else? I think we have somebody.
I think that's it.
That's about it. Yeah, but for those of you who do not, one other thing, we're going to be meeting in Frankenmuth in August, and I suggest you take a ride up there. It's not that far, and see what we're doing. You can get some chicken as well.
Meat chicken?
Christmas ornaments.
Christmas ornament, I forgot that, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that this resolution has to be approved by the Finance Committee, and then that's it, so. Okay.
Just a report.
Just a report.
And a report given to.
It's just a report, you're moving the report.
Okay, we're moving the report. Okay, is there any other questions on item number 12? If not, call the roll.
Woodward,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Zach. Yes. Long,
Yes.
Tubb,
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
And thank you for MAC, yes. Next is item number 13, Department of Management and Budget, Resource Department, County Exec Compliance Office, Financial and Human Capital Management System Replacement Project. And I'm not going to complain about the length of that because it's a very, very big project. Okay, Fleming is moving it and Zach is supporting it, so.
Wow, everybody did.
Good
Go ahead.
morning. Unfortunately,
It's a
Phil
biggie.
Bertolini had to go to some regional meeting, so pretend I'm Phil Bertolini. But this does majorly impact my
You're a
department,
good
so,
man.
yeah. So I'm going to be one of the presenters along with Mike Tim here. And then we have Lynn Sonkis and Christy Slauson and Pam Whitebert and Scott Guzzi, who are very much involved with the RFP process. Oh, yeah, and of course, all the IT, and Joe Ellen is involved, so yeah. Treasurer's office is represented. I'm sorry, Ross, I know, thank you for being here. So as you can see from those introductions, this has a wide-ranging impact. So I'm gonna just briefly cover some of the importance of this system and just very macro level. The rest of the folks are gonna get into the detail and some of the history. We anticipated some of the questions might come. We understand this is a major investment for the county. And then after that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Tim, who's going to talk about some of the technology issues and cybersecurity and so on and so forth. And then Christy and Lynn will talk about the impact on the individual departments and the funding and the staffing requests that are before you. So just want to, so please bear with us, but we want to make sure that you have a full understanding because we know this is a big decision. So we're prepared to answer your questions. So Phil would tell you, as he told the Human Resources Committee yesterday, that financial ERP systems, and we'll explain what an ERP system is, but implementation of ERP systems, Phil would say, is where CIOs go to die. So this is a big undertaking, and believe me, if we didn't have to do this, we would not be doing it because it is painful. So, but if you think of, so we have usually before you, when we have large investment requests, they're either for buildings or technology, right? This is probably the biggest technology implementation project that we would have to do. And if you think of, buildings representing the skin and the organs of a body, the financial system, the ERP system is more like the heart and the brains of the body, okay? So this is very important. The body doesn't function without this system functioning. So that's kind of a good way, maybe analogy, to tell you about how important this. It's a main operational system for the county. So ERP, and I'm sure I'm not going to cover everything, but hopefully Mike and Christy and Lynn will fill in the rest. It includes things like our human resources systems, the hiring, the management of employees, all of those records, benefits, administration, including retirement benefits. It includes the budgeting system. It includes the accounting system. It includes payroll, including time and labor, which is important for grants management. It includes the purchasing and procurement system. It affects the treasurer's office. Treasurer's office has some other databases, but this is important for accounting and payroll to be able to talk to treasurer's office because it starts over there and then the payment actually happens over at treasurer's. Payroll is probably, I think you'll all agree, probably one of the single most important and frequent functions that we do. So that's, I mentioned that. And it affects all other departments because this is where the user departments inputs the time and labor information to generate the payroll. This is where grants management operates through, and capital asset management and project management, billings, so.
Purchasing, requisitions.
Yeah, so you can see it's not just affecting the people that you see in this room today, it affects all the departments, every single department. So hopefully this is not a surprise that we're before you. We've mentioned this for several years. It's been in the budget message, I think, for at least the last 3 years. It's been in the fiscal plan, long-term fiscal plan document as an item for the last 3 years. And I think you've seen it, as Lynn will mention, every finance committee meeting on the assigned fund balance sheet. And as you saw today, as Lynn started the meeting, we're now asking for use of that fund balance assignment. So how, I know there are concerns about how long will this system last because it is, a big investment. So the human resources system was originally on PeopleSoft, and that's the system that we're replacing is the PeopleSoft system. So HR has been on that system since 1998. So 20 years now that we've used PeopleSoft, and we've been able to maintain that. Because HR was already on PeopleSoft, when it became time for the county to replace its purchasing system, which was on a different platform, and the financial system, which was on a totally different platform. So we had 3 different platforms at that time and 3 different systems, and I think someone said at that time we had, 700 shadow systems? So you can see that was a big undertaking, undertaking at that time. So we came to this board back in 2004. I know some of you were here when we last came, and it seems like yesterday, but that was 14 years ago since we were last before you for the funding for the PeopleSoft system for purchasing and financials. And remember, HR was already on there. So we implemented that system at the time in about 2 years. It was about a 2-year implementation, and we did that in 3 phases. So we came with the first phase, second phase, third phase, and at that time it was probably, around, by the time we were done, maybe, 14 or $15 million, maybe more.
Probably close to 15.
Yeah, about $15 million by the time we were done. And those were in dollars from, let's say, 12 years ago. So, and that was only the financial and purchasing system. And this is the whole system now, including human resources. That's a good point. So back in 2009, when we were in the budget cutting phase, we stopped funding the annual maintenance contract for PeopleSoft. Several things happened. Oracle bought out PeopleSoft, and we were required to pay PeopleSoft about $500,000 each year if we wanted to be able to upgrade to a new version in the future. So we didn't get really any immediate benefit from that 500,000 other than maybe some minor changes. So I believe at that time, one of the things that we did is we hired a third-party vendor, Rimini Street, and we paid them about $150,000 a year.
Is it $250?
Oh, $250 a year, to maintain the things that needed to stay current rather than paying PeopleSoft. We came before you and we asked for use of some of those savings to enhance some cybersecurity so that we weren't exposed, since we weren't doing the maintenance and we weren't going to do future version upgrades. And what we did at that time is we started banking and earmarking through assigned fund balance the savings that we were realizing by reducing the cost for the PeopleSoft maintenance contract. So that's kind of the history as to how that assigned fund balance got built up since 2009, because we never intended to keep the system. So one of the things that we did before we went out and issued an RFP is, I believe, information technology went to PeopleSoft and asked them if we wanted to now go and upgrade to the latest version of PeopleSoft and maintain what we have, what would that require? What would that cost us? And they basically told us that before we even incurred any implementation costs internally and externally, because we usually have an implementation vendor, we would have to pay them back all those years of maintenance fees, you know, the
Yeah,
500,000
of
per
course.
year. So you can imagine that's, you know,
That
so
went
if we've
over
been
me.
doing that for basically, you know, 8 years, let's say, that's a lot of money to just get the foot in the door to be able to go to the new version. So we said, forget it. We're going to, and so that was Oracle, right? So we decided we'd go out to bid and see what we could do for a whole new system. So that process started actually 2 years ago in 2016. The team here, they worked with purchasing issued an RFP, and it was a very involved RFP. I think we made you aware of that at the time. I think we had questions, and we let you know about that RFP document. There were 18 responses. So no lack of competition on this one, Commissioner Fleming. Well, I have to tell you that, you know, Oakland County has a very good reputation.
They want you.
They want us, and they like to be able to tell other people in the state, other future clients, that Oakland County is their client. So our reputation did create a competitive environment. So I do, and information technology's reputation is stellar, and so that did pay dividends in this effort. And so for the last 2 years, the RFP review committee has been going through their due diligence, doing, you know, demos, and I know that the other presenters are going to talk to you about that process, so I'm not going to get into the details about that. But given all that, this is where we are now today. And at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Mike Tim, and he can get into more of the details that I haven't been able to or can't provide.
All right, so in that RFP process, we went through the demos and we went from those 18 vendors, and it did take quite a long time to get through those bid responses. We finally did narrow it down to a top 4. And with those top 4, we gave them the opportunity to come in and do demonstrations, presentations about how their systems would work. One of the things that has changed.
And I'll just add, each one of those demos was about a week long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the significant,
man, I'm glad I
that was a good ad.
yeah, significant investment of our team's
Sure.
time, you know, county employees, you know, from different departments to be part of that as well. But one of the things that has changed in the ERP marketplace is that you no longer just buy the package like we do in a lot of instances where we're working on software. You also buy the services of an implementer, somebody that understands how this system works, because it is so complex. And typically it involves you changing some of your existing business processes. And in fact, that will be the first phase of this project, is some business process analysis. How do we do payroll? How do we handle retirement? And how does that function work in the new system? So the consultants will come in and they will help work with each of the departments to do that analysis and then map our business process into the new system.
and in some cases change our business process to make it more efficient, because the system uses best practices for, you know, how to best do time and attendance, or how to best handle payroll. So in that process of the demos, and then also the evaluation of the cost that came in, the implementation costs, as well as potential hardware costs, software costs, as well as internal, we narrowed that down to the top 2 vendors. And in those 2 vendors, then we gave them an opportunity as well to come back for another round, deeper dive, specific scenarios that we had some questions about that were unique to our business, as well as things that were unique to their software. So the 2 that we were working with, the one in particular, Cherry Road was one of the, and Sierra 6. Right after Oracle bought PeopleSoft, the founder of PeopleSoft left PeopleSoft through that acquisition and founded Workday. And a number of the PeopleSoft resources went with him to this new company, Workday. Workday is now a $2 billion company. At the time when PeopleSoft was acquired, they were number 2 in the marketplace, in the ERP marketplace. Workday, I don't know what their ranking is in that marketplace at the moment, but they are a $2 billion company, and they serve some significant customers, in addition to state and local governments, some major brands like Nissan, Kohl's, Target, Amazon, Bank of America. Some pretty big companies are their customer base today. So, you know, you may not have heard of Workday, and maybe you have, but part of the point is it is a very major player in this marketplace.
Yeah.
One of the things that after we were going through and we were down to 2, one of the things that we had them do is we had some specific scenarios, and if we need to go into what those were, Christy and Lynn can provide detail, but we wanted to actually see how this business function would work in either the Oracle platform, which is our other second selection, or in the Workday platform. So those vendors came in and had the opportunity to show us how would we process this business function. So that was also a 3rd level of our evaluation process. We eventually, as we went through the evaluation, one of the other key decision points that, you know, as we've talked a little bit about, and in general we've talked about from an IT perspective, is cybersecurity. We did make a decision from a security perspective to move this function into the cloud. So Workday software will not be on-prem, so that also has some financial implications we'll talk about in a second. But from a security perspective, it also means that that security will be up in the cloud. And we have done enough work in the cloud as a county, as well as what other counties and other businesses are doing, to be very comfortable that the cloud is secure. It's really a matter of how you implement security as a user in the cloud, which is really no different than the security we have to implement when we're on-prem. And that's something that we spend a great deal of time and resources staying focused on. So we have decided to move it up to the cloud. That's where this particular product operates. And one of the benefits of that too, that in the Workday selection, Workday does not do customization. And that became a key criteria for us. We didn't want to have an Oakland County only solution. We wanted to have one that was easily supportable. Now Workday has a model where they provide an almost infinite amount of configuration. And that configuration is what we will go through in the implementation process to turn on this function or to turn this function off because we don't use it. There are also different modules within the whole scope of ERP that have been part of our bid and evaluation process. Workday also, one of their key differentiators is their process for doing software updates, software releases, whether they're security related or functionality related. So that was also a key driver for us. Their updates are major updates are published every 6 months. And everybody in the world that operates on Workday gets access to those updates. And everybody has to go through the process of configuration to turn them on or turn them off. And we'll continue to go through that process. And again, Lynn and Christy will talk a little bit about some of the impact of that from a staffing perspective. One of the other benefits or changes in this model, and we do believe it is a benefit long-term, is that we are not going to procure hardware. We're not going to go out and buy dozens of servers that we have to replace in a few years. We're not going to go out and purchase the software that we have to update on-prem. We're also going to not be as responsible for the security on-prem the same way that we are up in the cloud. Workday will now have some of those responsibilities and will take those on for us, and that's some of the fees that we will pay. So we're transferring from a capital-intensive project model to more of an operating expense model. And that is a trend in the IT industry. It is getting more and more expensive to maintain your own data center, just because of some of the capital costs. So we will still have almost a 2-year implementation. It's looking potentially to be in the 18 to 24 month. We're still going through some of the detailed negotiation, and it will depend on some of the details we get through in the business process analysis phase, which is the first phase. And just a couple last points about, Lori mentioned a little bit about the decision and the question to PeopleSoft when we started on this road in detail a couple of years ago. One of the issues with PeopleSoft is because it is an aging technology, because it was acquired by Oracle, and because a lot of those resources moved away from Oracle and are now part of Workday and are in other jobs and opportunities, providing support for Workday is getting more and more difficult. I'm sorry, PeopleSoft, thank you.
PeopleSoft.
It is getting more and more difficult. So that made that even a little bit less viable opportunity as well. I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn and to Christy to talk about the financial impact, and then we'll take any questions.
Actually, I'll talk about the impact on the organization. So it's going to impact the entire organization, the departments, the management, the employees, and the retirees. I think change management will be important to create awareness and engagement throughout the implementation, to communicate on the progress, to involve the departments and the users and stakeholders. Training will be key, and there'll be multiple training platforms available based on the needs of the users, whether you're a functional user or an end user of the system. And I just wanted to give you some features that the users can expect from the system. It should be intuitive and the ease of navigation throughout the system. It can be used on mobile devices. There's actually an app that can be downloaded. Employees and retirees can have a variety of self-service functionality available to them. Right now, there's just really a view-only access that employees can use now through PeopleSoft. There's a management tool with access to reports and dashboards and actually drilling capability to detailed transaction data. It will allow departments real-time data access to HR and financial information. And there's really no downtime of the system for end users, and it will increase efficiencies with current business processes across all areas through HR, financials, and procurement. And to support the replacement and oversee the new system, we are requesting to create a new classification titled Enterprise Resource Planner Administrator, an ERP administrator at a salary grade 18, overtime exempt, and we are requesting to create 2 full-time eligible general fund, general purpose positions, 1 in human resources and 1 in financials. These positions will play an important role in the successful implementation and ongoing business support of Workday. They're going to oversee and coordinate the continuous upgrades, the testing, the security, and the training and support of the future of the system. And I'm going to turn it over to Lynn, who's going to talk about the funding and the timeline.
Okay, so this has been a long time coming. This should not be really any big surprise. We actually started we've been frozen on PeopleSoft application since 2009. In 2011, we established the assigned fund balance. It was initially started off at $3 million, gradually built up to $5 million, and now it is up to $10 million. It's been that amount for the last couple of years. And I guess just want to back up for a little bit. So, I mean, we've been on the PeopleSoft application from the financial side since 2006. We've been on that application for 12 years. HR's already been on it for 20 years. One of the questions or statements that was made yesterday during the presentation to HR committee was how long generally do these systems last? And the data that was researched and obtained was roughly 10 to 12 years. So we've outlived that time span definitely on the HR side and are at the tail end on the financial side. Certainly with this model that we're looking at implementing, we're expecting to get at least that and more. I hate to say that, I hope this is my last implementation. This is my third one. But it is a time commitment to do this. So we do have the assigned fund balance now at $10 million for the system replacement itself. This is included in the year-end report that is presented to the Finance Committee and the full board, as well as included in the contingency packet in the equity report section that amount is displayed and shown to you. So if you refer to the packet itself, there is an exhibit, which is the fourth page into the document, Exhibit 1, that breaks down the various costs for the project, including one-time and ongoing costs. So the one-time costs are estimated to be just shy of $9.8 million, and that's primarily related to costs for the implementation itself. So the Workday is the product that we have selected. The implementer for the system implementation is Sierra Cedar. So their cost is around $6.4 million one-time cost to implement this HR and financial system. From there, we do have ongoing annual costs to subscribe to the Workday product. The annual ongoing cost is about $2.2 million, of which about $1.8 million of that is related to Workday subscription fees. With this project, we also included in the one-time costs is we do have to increase our internet service provider bandwidth because it's no longer an on-premise solution, it's within the cloud, and we need to make sure that the users of the system, which includes more than HR, finance, purchasing, treasurer's office, includes all the user departments, that they have good response time to the application. Certainly if it works well, that's one thing, but it needs to be responsive as well. So that's built into the project as $450,000 one-time cost for equipment, and then there will be an ongoing cost of $100,000 a year for the to keep that bandwidth going. So we do have, again, Exhibit 1 lays out that in detail. Primarily, the bigger costs are the Sierra Cedar implementation costs and the Workday subscription costs. Schedule A, that's Schedule A within the packet is actually the budget amendment. So we are amending the budget through 2021. We are going to take the $10 million, or roughly $13.8 million that we're going to transfer from the general fund into a separate project fund that we typically use for larger initiatives such as this. We've done it in the past for imaging, UCC, our former system, we did the same type of thing so that we can monitor the implementation costs at any given time. So that's all of the budget amendment impact is listed in Schedule A. This was planned with with the fiscal plans for the last several years, and we did include it in the recommendation for the 2019 through 2021 budget. As far as timeline is concerned, we are working on actively wrapping up contract negotiations with both Sierra Cedar and Workday to get started. Sierra Cedar will start us out with a business process alignment process, which will take around 12 to 14 weeks to complete. They will be meeting with subject matter experts here at the county, working through day-in-the-life workshops, is one of the bigger pieces of that phase, so that they can get an understanding of the what and why of what we do. These aren't necessarily design sessions. They will use this information then to develop the implementation plan, scope, and timeline. Preliminary information that we received as part of the bid response for them was a 12-month implementation timeline for the HR and payroll functions. That's outside of the business process alignment phase, so that would be a 12-month implementation, and then the financials, a 9-month implementation, starting in the 5th month of so they're kind of concurrent during the HR phase. So this is a big project, obviously. Last time we did this, we only did the financial side, so we are doing both the financial and HR side. So we realize the importance to make this project a success. We will be engaging, when we do the implementation, engaging all departments so that we can get obviously unique areas that have issues or processes that need to be addressed to make sure that those are configured efficiently and effectively in the new system. We will be encouraging standardization of utilizing the Workday processes that represent best practices. So obviously we will be going through some change management. Just because we've done certain things, we typically hear a lot sometimes, well, I've always done it this way. Doesn't mean it's the only way to do something. And again, as Mike said, that this system is a system that is configurable. There is no customization. So we feel that will lend us to being more efficient and continuous upgrades, not only from a functionality standpoint, but from a technology standpoint as well.
I think that concludes our formal comments, and if you have questions, we're here to answer them.
Okay. I have Fleming and then Tom.
Okay.
Go ahead, Wade.
Well, we had a brief conversation before, Laurie. But this is huge. This is very big. I mean, this is the brains of the organization here. This is bigger than any construction project, whatever, because this affects every employee that uses a computer at the county. Okay? And you've done your homework.
retirees,
I mean, I know you're retiring.
No,
Mike,
and retiree, it affects
you can't go
retirees.
anywhere, Mike. I know.
I'd love to be retired, but I made a commitment.
This is, I say this half jokingly, this is going to retire a lot of people. This is huge. Mike, you can't go anywhere.
This is why we're asking for the two positions.
You need the
Yeah,
positions. You
we
need the
do.
position. I'm not an expert in this area, but it scares me to death. I've been through enough of these things even years ago that I still remember what's going through. This is huge organizational change. I don't think we have enough contingency in here. I really don't. I think we've missed the timeline. And I only say that not because I'm an expert. You guys have done all your homework. You've done everything. But you don't know what you don't know. And these companies will sell you a bill of goods and what they can do. And purchasing, you've done your due diligence, and I'm sure you're not going to hit your budget and you're not going to hit your time. I'm making a prediction right now. Please, please prove me wrong. You're going to have people leave the organization. Be prepared for that. Bringing in your additional staffing and so forth, absolutely necessary. We don't have a choice. I'm not against this. We don't have a choice. We have to do it.
If I could just increase your confidence somewhat.
Well, I wish you could, because you're going to have a hard time.
We do have some amount of contingency in the request before you, and one of the reasons it took a little while, we were ready with the decision several months ago, but with Joe Ellen's help and purchasing in the departments, they have been negotiating for the last several months. And so I have confidence from my conversations with all the players that I think we're going to be in good shape. And we were within budget last time. So you have some talent. Yeah, you have some very talented people here. We're very fortunate. So I'm not going to say there won't be any surprises, but I have a lot of confidence in the process and what's before you today.
And with that EPA process, they are going to be, when they meet with us, they are going to be resetting that timeline to meet realistic expectations.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't have a lot of downtime within our organizations very often, so we have to be able to.
But I would agree with you, if we were doing customization, that would be a bigger concern, but we are not doing special customizations, so.
Even configuration is.
And one more comment, if I might, too. In the process of the procurement process, one of the steps we did was reference checks.
Yeah.
And we had some excellent conversations and deep dive into their business process. The city of Denver and who is it in Florida?
Orlando.
Orlando, and was it Denver County?
City and county.
So we have some comparable governmental units that we got some very good feedback, not only on the Workday product, but also on Sierra Cedar as an implementer, and the rigor of their process and the maturity of their process. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a very large amount of money. It's a very large project. I mean, it is going to be fraught with risks. We're going to find issues, as we always do. But we do have some good confidence that the process we went through to make the selection, as well as what some of those before us have done, will help us be successful.
Yeah, yesterday in personnel, you talked about the sandbox, where you took the top 2 bidders and put it in a sandbox, and explain that a little bit.
Yeah, the sandbox was basically, I mean, we were able, again, partly because it's up in the cloud, they gave us an instance of the Workday software, and Lynn or Christy can talk about specific transactions if you're interested, but we had specific business process that we implemented in Workday, and we were able to test out, oh, so this is how this retiree scenario is going to work, or this is how this payroll function will work, or this procurement function will work. So we were able to see it, and our subject matter experts, you know, dozens of people in the staffs of these departments were involved in actually playing in the sandbox, if you will, with this is how I'm going to do my job in the new system.
They did that for the 2 finalist companies.
We actually gave them a complex scenario, like one of our a very complex scenario out of our retirement unit. Show us how you would configure the system to do this, this, and this, and then prove it to us. How
Actual
it would work.
transactions.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just to follow up, I'm really pleased that you have looked at some other government entities that have utilized this and gone through this process before you. I know you looked at them. Did you actually go and visit them and talk to the people there on the ground?
We talked to the people on the ground.
Yeah, we talked, we didn't visit them, but we did, our reference checks, we had a room of 30 to 40 end users, and they had their peers on the other side of the phone, and we went back and forth.
Well,
Very detailed questions that they had, you know, that we gave to them.
again, we don't have a choice, and you're doing the right thing. You're doing what you have to do. I'm just giving you just a little bit of background, and the reason I don't have any hair is because I've been through this, but it's years ago, and it is very time-consuming. It's very difficult to come in on time and on budget. I hope you do it. I'm cheering for you, but I hope I'm wrong, but I anticipate it's going to take longer, and it's going to take more money, and 10% contingency in here is not even close. It's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, please prove me wrong. But we don't have a choice. So you got my vote. All I'm saying is we better be looking ahead in the budget and being ready to put some more money in there. It's just my gut's telling me that.
Okay, Commissioner Top.
Well, my gut tells me they're going to do it.
Good.
Okay, but I do have one concern. Many years ago, within an 18-month period, I had 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 computer systems as they merged and merged and merged. And it was enough to drive a normal person crazy, so you know what happened to me. My main concern, and I don't know the technical language for it, but my main concern with all of this is, we used to call it a bridge. I don't know what it's called now. But you have data here, and you want to move it over there. And every
Conversion.
Conversion. Maybe that's the new word.
Compatibility.
And so one of the things I wish I had done, I think I did it in the second time, but the first time I wish I had kept the old program somewhere on some computer so that when we can't find Mary Beth's retirement plan, as an example, I'm just making that up,
Right.
that we can go back to the old version and say to the people doing the conversion, this is what Mary Beth's program looked like. This is what we want you to replicate in our new system. Because with probably there are going to be some glitches. Somebody's going to get a paycheck for $2 million and it should have been $2,000. Okay, I'm making that up. It could, you know what I'm trying to say? Stuff like that happens, sadly.
Not here, hopefully.
So that kind of, quote unquote, well, you can't make that kind of a deposit, you know. But anyway, that kind of stuff could conceivably happen. So that's my main concern, not the amount of money we're spending, because it has to be done, not the fact that I was here when we did the first PeopleSoft, so I get it. And we were concerned then, and it worked well, it worked okay, but there were glitches even then, you know, so will there be some kind of, besides holding on maybe to the old system somewhere, will there be some kind of prep course for all the employees to say, look, it may take time, you may get a $2.59 paycheck, is that better? Rather than, yeah, so.
You'll probably see broadcast emails ad nauseum.
Yes.
You're gonna say, please stop sending them to us.
Okay.
And you know, your point about the conversion, whether it's, you know, data or system functionality, that is something that, I mean, we do quite a bit. We do it, I'll say we do it every day. That is part of the job that we do in IT. And also the business process plays a big part in that. And one of the things that we will be able to do, we own the data in our current PeopleSoft system. And it's on-prem, and we have a lot of subject matter experts with that data. We will be able to still access that data. It's in a database that we can still pull from. It's not likely that we will keep the PeopleSoft application running for too much longer after we do the conversion, because we'll have to keep paying license fees. So we don't want to pay for both. But even after we shut off PeopleSoft, we'll still have that data. Another advantage that we have is that, again, the folks that run Workday built PeopleSoft. So they're intimately familiar with all of that current data structure. And it is, I mean, to your point, Commissioner Taub, it is a massive amount of data, a massive number of tables and fields and the intricacies and how they tie together. That is one of the biggest challenges in these conversions, is moving data from your old system into your new system. And again, the Workday people have done that. They've got models for it. And they've got technology to aid in that process.
Maybe a good way to think about it is the data is the data, and as Mike says, the data is still going to be there. The software is just how you pull the data out, how you view it, how you input it. So.
And with that discussion with the implementation plan, where we are looking at, I mean, that's a big concern for us, is the data conversion. What data are we gonna take out of our old system and put into the new? How many years are we gonna go back? What types of information do we need to actually convert in the new system?
Okay, Shelley, or you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. In yesterday's conversation, we talked about when we went to PeopleSoft, the training that employees had to go through was real intense. It was, I heard complaints about, I didn't hear a lot of praise about PeopleSoft from employees.
I think the complaints, well, first of all, PeopleSoft, you know, is a complex system, but I think a lot of the complaints you might have been hearing about is the way that we implemented, because what we did is the business process review, as Lynn mentioned, and so we put more internal controls. So for example, I think the biggest complaint I heard was that employees could not do direct vouchering anymore. That means they could bypass accounting, and they could put in their own vouchers that would go directly to treasurers. And so when you need to research, if it didn't go through a proper vouchering function, it's hard to research that. So we cut off that capability except for maybe certain things like utility payments. I can't remember. We had very few exceptions. What was that? I'm sorry.
There's a specific list of the things
that are allowed. Yeah. But a lot more things were disallowed. And so
it's all centralized now, as far as only certain departments are allowed to do.
Yeah, so there are certain departments that might be like enterprise funds that think they should be in more control, and not because they're not general fund. But internal controls are internal controls. Those were the biggest complaints that we had.
But the training process for Workday is
more
lot
intuitive.
smoother, a lot better, yeah. So-
Yeah. You can use your mobile device, is what I'm told.
Oh, yeah, the thick, when we talked about PeopleSoft, we talked thin client and thick client, and those terminologies are gone, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Helene?
I just want to add, in Human Resources, I asked the question about staffing, and Lori reminded me that we brought Art Holdsworth in as the deputy in finance, and his main function was to carry this out. So
And it was only for the financial side of that time.
Financial, I know, and I
Really?
had forgotten that
Yeah.
until she brought it to my attention.
Really?
I had a deputy director position that I gave up with the budget cuts, and that was Art Holdsworth's
Yeah.
position
And-
formally.
And so that was part of the package, so we
Yeah.
clearly do need
Need the staff
champion
people that are
staff
coming with
to,
this project.
lead us.
Thank you.
So, any other questions?
Thank you.
If not, call the roll on item, I think it's 13. Yeah,
Culp?
Yeah.
Yes. Zach?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Tug?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, next we have item number 14. It was a walk-on item. It's on a separate sheet. And it has to do with when we do this contract with Workforce, that we want to have this all in place so that we're giving them a clean document of what our policy is on these. So I need a motion for regarding the Department of Human Resources, Corporate Counsel, Purchasing, Compliance and Information Technology, Electronic Communication, and Use of Technology Policy. I need a motion. Colwell is moving it. Zach is supporting it. So go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, the reason
Yes.
we asked to walk this on is because this policy, once you approve it, will be applicable to contractors.
Mhm.
And we would like Sierra Cedar in their major
Mhm.
implementation and their access to county data, when they sign the contract, they will also be signing that anyone who has access to the network will follow this policy.
Right.
So last year, we formed a committee of IT, purchasing, HR, and corporation counsel to review a policy that you passed in 1997. It was the computer hardware, software usage, and license policy. And as you can imagine, a lot has changed since 97. Some of the terminology in that policy is not applicable. And when we looked at that policy, we said, you know, well, there are two other policies that are similar to this, and they make sense to be part of one comprehensive policy. That was the remote access policy and the electronic communications policy. So we've made that all one policy. And one of the problems with that 1997 policy is that in some instances it allowed departments to purchase their own software and to maintain the license themselves. And over time we learned they really weren't keeping copies of the license. But the other problem is that IT then wasn't in the beginning stages to review the security, to see what they were being asked to support. And then IT would ask our office to review what the license was. We couldn't even find it because it had never gone through purchasing. So now this policy will make it clear that both IT and purchasing are the front lines on any IT things that you want. If you're purchasing something, purchasing is the only place that can sign to bind the county. You can't have departments signing software licenses. And even though a lot of licenses are done online now, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They think that click I agree because they're so used to it is okay to do, but it's not, because they're terms for all of those licenses and hosting arrangements, and most of the times those terms are problematic. It's rare that we don't go back to a vendor and ask them to change something for us. So this is just clarifying now that everything has to go through IT for review, has to go through purchasing, and if they're terms, then those have to be reviewed by us. And there are a few other parts to this, and Mike's going to add a few things.
Okay,
Thank you, Joellen. Yeah, security was a big piece of it, and as Joellen mentioned, the license review and approval. So one of the things that we will add as a result of this, and as a result of changes in technology, on the IT webpage, we'll add a list of reviewed and pre-approved click-through licenses that people might use in their day-to-day work. An example might be that some of you may have used is WebEx. WebEx has terms and conditions, and those terms and conditions do bind the county to certain things. So Corporation Council will review those terms and conditions, we'll negotiate as best we can and get them approved for use in Oakland County, and we will have that on a list of pre-approved software. Employees can then go through and go ahead and do that self-click, if you will, whenever they use that utility. So there are multiple utilities like that we've already started the process of going through some of the more common ones that we see that we get requests about.
So employees will save a lot of time not having to read all of that contract.
Well, if they were reading it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right, if they were reading it. And then Chrissy will explain that there's a training piece to this so that employees will understand what the requirements are.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're actually working with IT. We're going to develop a computer-based training to help educate employees on this policy. And we're going to communicate that out, and then we'll also distribute out the policy, and employees will sign for it.
Any questions? Helene?
I just want, it's related to this a little bit. I want to thank Mike, Tim, and staff for straightening out my iPhone and my iPad and my iPhone. One of the things that all of us, and I want to commission, when we got these iPads, I was advised best practice is not to forward my county email into my personal email, which I used to do for security, FOIA, things like that. Somehow my personal and my county got entwined, and they separated it. But I hope that in this implementation that you will help the Board of Commissioners adapt some policies so that we are never going to be in the county, internet when we're working at home. And one of the problems that I have is when I get something from the county, I know it's going to expire fast.
Yes.
And so I forward it into my personal email.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a workaround, if you can adapt that and help us when our passwords expire. It's very complex because we're not on the mainframe to, redo our passwords every, days. If you're on the county web, then you're fine. So I'm hoping that you can help us so that we can use our iPads simply and effectively as off-site employees in this transition.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. We do have in one of the other projects that we brought to you almost a year ago now, that we are in the middle of implementation is the UCC, the Unified Communications Project. And one of the sub-pieces of that, it's actually yet to come because that's a 3-phase project. One of the sub-pieces of that is enhanced Wi-Fi in the campus and then also remote access. Separately, we also have initiatives around remote access for devices that are county-owned and authorized, so that you can access, your ability to change a password and your ability for email. The specific issue about the retention policy, we do have a way for you to save certain emails. We don't want it for all emails, but we can work that right now separately with your mailbox. I don't think I can do it from your iPad. I think we have to do it from a bigger PC. But again, that piece of it, there's a reason though, and Joellen, is probably shaking a little while I'm saying this. The retention policy is there for a reason.
Yeah.
And because we are a government and obviously things that we do are in the public face, we want to be, as responsive as we can and as transparent as we can. But there are also reasons to only have a 14-day retention.
So, you know, I'm not looking for special, I'm just saying collectively, because there's some
Agreed.
big
You're right.
reports that come to us.
Can't get them done.
And I
They're gone.
can't get them done,
Right.
or, you know, and
Right.
so I don't want to
They're
miss
missing,
them.
right.
And so,
Yeah, and there are ways,
Time that I
there are ways to
send it
save
again.
that, yeah, that
for all
could
of
be for
us, that
everybody.
we can
Yeah.
look at, working with our administrative director and setting some better practices.
That's what I heard last time. I should work.
Chris. And Chris smiles back there.
Jamie also had
Yeah.
a comment.
We hear what you're saying, your other concerns like this, we're taking copious notes, and we can circle back around with Chris with some best practice ideas, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
No, we should do is, like, oh,
Okay, Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a lot of good work, it makes a lot of sense how we're doing this. I want to zero into like section 8, prohibited uses, and I think everything outlined here makes a lot of sense. There are two things that kind of concerns that raise up. So number 3, which I think the intent of not conveying political messages is to be in alignment with law, to not advocate for or against candidates, and I mean, that type of stuff. But to convey political messages, if I send out a mass email explaining my vote on something, I mean, that falls in line with political messages. And I guess, is this what the existing policy is? Because I think that there are plenty of things that, I mean, express this is the position that we're taking on this. And so, I don't, I mean, maybe, I guess I think maybe it'd be better to prohibit the engagement of express advocacy and support or opposing a candidate or ballot, things related to the ballot. I mean, which my sense is that that's the purpose of that, to not get into any electioneering, but not necessarily stopping political leaders, which is everything we do. And communicating why we're doing this. I mean, that some may perceive as a political message. Recognizing that it is illegal to use public dollars in support of a candidate or something like that. So then we wanted to call out that, not necessarily my position in support of regional transit or someone else's opposition to it or something like that, which would arguably be a political message.
Would you prefer something like political messages that are not permitted by law, or that, you know, or that political messages or political, you know, commentary that are inconsistent with Campaign Finance Act or other applicable laws? That's more what we were trying to get at. That's what we were trying to,
so
yes.
Without making it too legalese that people reading it have no idea what that means.
Right, yeah, that's why we originally did have Campaign Finance Act, but then, right, not everybody you would understand what that means, but not everybody else would.
And so, I guess something along those lines, I mean, if there's a shorter way of saying it.
Okay.
That's why, I mean, I think in law, the law that actually, because I've dealt with this with other groups, the express advocacy and support or opposition of a candidate, I think that's actually spelled out in, I think that language is laid out.
You're on page 6, right, that part?
I'm on page 6, yeah,
Yeah.
it's item number 3. Sorry. Clarification on that. I hate every communication I say, calling it this, which they do not do express advocacy.
Resolution, we can only amend the fiscal note, right?
And then the other thing is, like, I see like solicitation of funds for sales, I understand why, and it's important, but I don't we communicate the ability to employees to voluntarily check off campaign to charities, but also the dollar donation for casual days, so I think maybe warrants tweak of that. I mean, I think, again, the intention here, I think is very clear what it's trying to do, but those are good things, and I'm sure we communicate those things.
Non-county sanctions, solicitation of funds or sales.
Okay. How would we do that? Amend it on the board floor?
I think that's probably, so let's lawyers figure it out.
We get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's two flags that came up.
Okay, well,
And again, I think in line with the
I think
intent
that's
in
what
here,
he's
we
making.
don't want to.
Because different elected officials sanction different
Yeah.
right, right.
efforts, so it's
Because
just
we get
me that.
non-county.
And I can do
think
that. I don't have to
non-county
have an opposing
sanctioned,
vote. I can just
and
put it on
I'll
a
work
regular
on
agenda.
something on
Yeah.
political messages.
That's a good point, Dave.
Okay. Normally, if something passes unanimously, we put it on the consent, but I can pull anything off the consent and put it on the regular agenda. But really, we're going to ask Human Resources to amend the resolution, right?
A resolution,
Amend the actual drafted policy.
The resolution is okay, I think it's just
Okay,
the
it's the
policy
fiscal
from
note that's,
yourself.
it's the policy that needs to be
Right.
amended.
Right.
Okay, we'll work that out and have it, the right language introduced at the full board.
So you,
Would
Go
you
ahead,
like to
Chris.
see it before?
well, I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I
I
get
will show it to
emails
them
all the
before.
time asking for money from people for, I mean, I think all of us do, don't we, as county commissioners? Is that what you're saying, or organizations,
So, I
don't
was gonna
click to
say-
donate here?
So, no, I understand the thing. That
On
doesn't
this.
stop people from the outside
Right.
coming in. Like, we shouldn't be actively using publicly funded
Right, but they
enterprise
get, these are,
to do it.
They respond.
I never respond, but I'm saying we get all these emails, so as long as we don't respond, it's good.
Well, I mean, I guess we shouldn't be using a public enterprise to be raising money. I think there are exceptions, like the charities that we recognize that employees can
The
check
fallen
off.
Yeah, you need to work on this,
Heroes
so.
are more open, so when there's sanctioned things,
Oh.
I think, I mean, here
All
you
right.
go. I mean, if you want to, it's a way to communicate, make it easy to
Sure.
communicate with people, which I don't think there's any objection.
I guess there
but
needs to be
We don't want,
Merchandise.
I don't want 4,000 employees emailing me about their Girl Scout cookies.
Right, right.
And I, for the record, have never asked.
Oh, you have Girl Scouts?
I haven't, no.
Bring these cookies.
Oh,
You
she
can bring them in.
come.
Yeah, she can come in.
I don't do that.
You bring her in, I know.
But, yeah.
Okay.
Which again, I think, I mean, the intent here is very clear. I just think we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we don't curtail good things that we have been doing and should, in my opinion, continue.
Okay. Just to recognize that we're going to try to clear up that policy at the full board meeting. We're going to vote on the fiscal note that's before us now, which is item 13, item 14. Oh, I have a resolution? Okay. Okay, so we're going to vote on item 14. Any other discussion? If not, call the roll on item number 14.
Zach,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Tubb,
Oh,
Fleming,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Cowell,
Yes.
Middleton.
yeah, motion carried. Thank you. Is there any other business to be brought before the finance? Without objection, I declare the meeting adjourned.